The absurdity of social labeling. Watch this video. Hello, welcome to the channel. I hope you're all well. So I believe that there's an absurdity with social labeling, and I believe there's an absurdity with this political correctness, cancel culture, but also now there's a huge backlash in this cancel culture ethos. There's more a groundswell in popular culture and media, but also amongst the general public, especially against these woke policies, let's say, that lots of people like to term. But what I'm really talking about in this video is the labels that are attached to people just because they do something. Now, there is something called psychological constructs, and basically it's how we feel about certain things. It's not really tangible. It's just something how we feel. And labeling people by other persons, let's say, whether on social media or whether physically, labeling attacks the status quo. It makes people reevaluate when maybe they don't even need to reevaluate. And cancel culture was part of this. Somebody can say something, and they might have said something or done something many years ago, but it doesn't make them that person right now, or it doesn't mean that they hold any particular values, or whatever they've said and done was in context, and the context isn't being revealed to everybody. And social media has been the biggest problem in this, in that people are getting onto social media, jumping on the bandwagon, and targeting particular people for an agenda. There's an agenda out there, unfortunately, for either a political bias or some kind of social bias or whatever it is. Labels are then applied to particular people or particular ideas or particular movements or particular companies, whatever it is. And then the spotlight is put on that person or that company or that idea. And it really depends how they react to that. This is the psychological construct that starts to be warped, that things start to change a little bit. How do we react when the pressure is upon us? Do we start changing our values? Do we start changing the way we think? Do we start thinking, or maybe I am, or maybe I'm not, or do we retaliate? If we retaliate and try to defend our position or stand our ground, does that make the situation even worse? Does our silence automatically assume that we're guilty in the eyes of other people? Does our silence make us weak-willed? Does our silence imply some kind of arrogance? Or does our silence mean that we're just scared of just making the situation worse? In the United States, they seem to be putting a lot of emphasis on this social labeling now and the effect of social media on people's identities, or how people react in certain situations and how they react under pressure as well. And we're starting to see this in terms of cancel culture, in terms of that's the pressure that was being applied on people, how they would react. In fact, people would start changing the way they would react or self-censor just in case they got cancelled for whatever reason, in terms of getting in trouble with their bosses, in terms of losing their media position, or in terms of getting kicked off a social media platform. People started to self-censor. And we've seen this especially over the last 4 or 5 years. So because of labeling, because of pressure from those labels, people start to change the way they acted. People may have started to change the way they thought about themselves, but then, just like many things, it runs its course. And then you get more and more people questioning this whole process, questioning how people on social media can affect certain things. Why does somebody have to be cancelled? Why can somebody lose their whole livelihood just because people, anonymous people out there, can say certain things? All pressure is put on governments, local governments, national governments to introduce policies that nobody agrees with, or very few people agree with. Or it deals with a very small issue in terms of national population percentage, but it adversely affects the rest of the population as well. And this is why you get backlash. This is why you get people just digging their feet in the dirt and thinking, you know what? No more. We're not dealing with this anymore. We're not having this anymore. That is the absurdity of social labeling. This is when you label people without justification, without evidence, with an agenda. And that's what's been happening over the last few years, especially in countries like the United States, but especially anywhere where they're using social media. And we know the problems with social media. Sometimes it's just not a good place to be. And whilst there can be great positivity on there, there also can be great negativity as well. Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. If you like what I do here, well, just keep on watching the videos and I'll catch you again. Bye now.